Alrighty. Formula One was in Japan and it was an interesting weekend. It was also Yuki's home race, which made me really happy because Yuki was happy, Yuki was on, his family was on, the Japanese fans were amazing. I also really love their outfits. They go all out for Formula One, and this is how a Formula One weekend should be. I'm very excited today because I am also joined by a fellow Formula One enthusiast, content creator, broadcaster, commentator, you name it. If it involves Formula One, he is on it. Please help me welcome Lufefe, also known as the F1 vlogger, and you can also find him on Motozar TV. Hello, Lufefe, and welcome to Gaining Traction.
Hello, Paish. Thank you for having me. How are you this morning?
Well, I don't know if I should say I'm good. I'm okay. I'm okay. We just watched the race. It was yeah, it was okay. I'm fine. I'm alive. Let's thank God for being alive. But yeah, Formula One is giving me stress. It's giving me
Umgo.
stress. Okay. But okay, before we go into that, can you please introduce
Uh-huh.
yourself to my listeners? Just a short, who you are, why you love Formula One, that kind of vibe.
Okay, well, as you said, my name is Lufefe Mayekiso. I'm from a small town called Itutwa in Eastern Cape, but I was born and raised Mtata, which is also in the Eastern Cape. And this is where my love for Formula One first started. My neighbor, Alan Pierce, he was hugely into F1. So I used to be such a bug when I was a little kid. I'd follow him wherever he goes. And then I just caught the F1 bug. And I've
Yeah.
fallen in love with it since I was 9 years old. And then
Wow. Okay.
my journey transcended into becoming a content creator for Formula One in 2018. I don't know how much time we have, but I could tell you that story as well.
You can tell me later. You can tell me later. I think I've got a segment where you're going to have to tell me a little bit more about that because I think everyone's really interested to know. And it's also really nice just to have, fellow African Formula One content creators. Maybe this will bring Formula One to Africa finally because we are here and we love the sport, right? So actually, okay, you know what? I'll give you the moment. Tell me a little bit more about the content creation, about Motozar TV, about your F1 at the F1 vlogger.
Okay, so in 2018, I was at a Shisanyama. For those of you who don't know what a Shisanyama is,
The boy loves meat.
of course, X Factor. So Shisanyama is a meat restaurant, just to explain to our international viewers, where they barbecue the meat, and that's all they basically serve with the sides, obviously, which is usually pap or and chakalaka. So anyway, my mate and I,
Please include the fact that there's also people drinking savannas, dancing. Give them the full view of a shisanyama. Let's not be like, hey, we're just eating barbecue meat and we're chilling.
well, it's facts. I mean, it's always a vibe at Chisanyama. They have a resident DJ who has his own entourage. And yeah, bottomless savannas at most likely the best prices you can find in town. So we're at this
Love it.
Chisanyama in Clayville, here in Midrand in Johannesburg. This guy, I was in varsity with him. He was my roommate actually at UJ. And we're sitting there. He's a Manchester United fan. So we're
Okay.
having a chat. Then I think Manchester United had signed Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So it was 2017, 18. And he was not impressed with the signing because he felt Zlatan was a bit old. So I started singing Zlatan's stats. Zlatan's won 12 leagues the last 13 years in four countries, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, wait, step back. So at that point in time, I was following the career that I have been doing. Um, I'm a quantity surveyor, which I think is also known as a cost engineer, working in the construction industry as a QS. So at that point in time, as I'm giving my friend these stats. He asks me, so what's the midterm financial plan for Group 5? Group 5 is or was one of the top five biggest construction companies in Africa at the time. And I was like, I don't know. Then he's like, WBHO, which is a competitor. I'm like, I don't know. Then he's like, you're doing the wrong thing, buddy. You should be doing something in sports. So this got me thinking, went home, spoke to my partner at the time. I was like, so tell me, like, what do you think of what my friend said? Because he says I should be doing something in sport. Then she said, why don't you start a YouTube channel? So I'm a soccer fan, football fan, rugby fan, cricket fan, tennis fan, and obviously a F1 fan. So the decision to come with which sport I was going to create content was then the tricky part. Then a medium by the name of Jackie Pritchard, who obviously reads palms and that kind of stuff, was like, do the motorsports thing, you young black African, it's very unique. And that's how Motozar was born. So it started with a meme, you know, then it evolved. At that point, it was just a hobby. Then it evolved into a channel, I would say, in 2022. And I registered it as an official company. And yeah, that's what I'm doing as my day-to-day operations, hey? So I
Oh,
still
wow.
consult in the QS side just to keep the lights on, of course. But
Yeah.
when my channel pops, this is all that I'm going to be about.
That's one. Well, saying he's being humble because you're saying when your channel pops, but can you just let everyone know? I've seen you've been on. You're always on the news. You're always giving your. Is it on SABC? I'm not quite sure. Please tell us. You're always giving your expert opinion after a race on radio, TV. Like, give us a little like short snippet of that kind of stuff that you're doing.
Okay, so through my efforts of talking all things F1,
Hmm.
I've gotten some recognition from a few news channels here in South Africa.
Hmm.
So I'm a resident contributor on ENCA. So I'm there on race days, although I haven't been there the last two races because obviously it's been morning races. But I'm a resident there. I'm there on race days between 9 and 10. I also am a regular contributor on Morning Live, which is on SABC, as you said, and Newsroom Africa as well, and on the morning show on ETV.
The
So
boy
these are the places where you'll find me.
the boy is doing big things. Look at him being like, oh no, I just have a channel, and he doesn't want to tell us the other stuff. So you guys now know where to find him. You can find him on ENCA, you can find him on SABC, you can find him on Newsroom Africa. If you want to know anything Formula One, especially after the race, and you're not really a social media person, let's say, you can still get the content from Lufefe through all of these channels that he spoke about, and I will put them on my Instagram page as well when I post this episode. So thank you for that. Now
Thank you.
that we
Oh,
know,
wait.
that we know a bit about you, a bit about your love your Formula One, a bit about the content creation, I've got a little, a few little questions for you. First one,
Okay.
tell me your favorite Formula One team. I
Okay.
mean,
This is a bit of a trick question. You know why?
why?
There's there's two kinds of F1 fans.
Yeah.
There's the fans that support the team and the fans
Uh-huh.
that support the driver.
Tell me, who are you? Okay,
I'm
you're
I'm
yours.
the latter. I'm the
Okay, then who
latter.
is the guy?
So my driver is Lewis, but my team is actually Williams.
Williams.
Yes.
Why? Like, I mean, were you like a Williams fan from like back in the day when Williams was a proper team? Like,
You got it. I mean, you know, when you get introduced to any sport, you're most likely to follow the more successful teams. So at the time when I started watching F1, Williams was the dominant team. And at the time, they
okay.
weren't just good at producing a car, but they were always signing the right drivers. Because the first driver I supported was Nigel Mansell. Then he retired,
Hmm.
and then Alain Prost replaced him. So he was my
Yeah,
fave. Then he
yeah.
retired. Then Ayrton Senna went to Williams. I was like, okay, I'm not a
I,
great Senna fan, but He's a top driver. Then he
Yeah.
passed on, unfortunately, and then I started supporting Damon Hill. And then when he left Williams, I was a little bit not sure with Jacques Villeneuve those years. Then when Pablo Montoya burst into the scene, then I was back at Williams again in the Williams
I just
BMW.
I just want to say, all these people you were mentioning, Kanti, how old are you? Like, when were you born? I'm just literally, I'm like, I mean, when I talk about Sen, I'm like, yeah, those people who were driving when I was still in my mother's womb. Like, this guy. I was just
I'm
tell. I mean, it's good though.
actually,
It's good. It's good. You
I'm
don't have to tell us your age. It's okay.
okay,
It's
cool.
okay. It's
I'm
okay.
not
I'm
ashamed
messing.
though.
No, I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. But I mean, those are like, I'm actually thinking as you're saying that Williams really was a good team,
They
and
were.
I'm almost like, we should have known the trajectory of Williams. It should have told us that Mercedes is going to go down that same way one day, because they're the junior team, and look at where we are now. But okay, I won't get into that. Anyway, we know
No,
this guy.
anything can and usually does
Yeah,
happen in
yeah.
F1, eh?
Mm. What goes
Yeah,
up
no,
must
it's
come
rough.
down. That's all I know, and that is what is happening
Yeah,
right now. Okay, we know
yes.
your favorite driver was Lewis, your favorite team
Hmm.
actually, Williams.
Hmm.
And give me just your best from all of this, whether it's from the 90s or now, or before, your best Formula One moment. Like for you, the when you think Formula One, what's the moment that you're like, yo, guys, that was the time.
Well, it has to be the 2008 World Championship fight between Felipe Massa and Lewis
Hmm.
Hamilton, where
Okay.
Lewis won his first title
Yeah.
in Brazil, overtaking Timo Glock on the second last corner of
Yeah.
the last lap of the
Yeah.
last race of the
Yeah.
season, that Felipe Massa had won
Yes.
and had clinched the world championship for about 7, 8 seconds.
Yeah.
So what happened in that race is it started raining in the last 2 laps.
Mhm.
Some drivers pitted for wet tires. Some drivers didn't. So Lewis did pit for wet tires, but he was unfortunately overtaken by Sebastian Vettel, who was driving for Toro Rosso at the time, which dropped him down to sixth place. So what needed to happen is Massa had to win the race and Lewis had to finish sixth or worse for Massa to be champion. So Lewis was running sixth. Then Timo Glock, who was driving for Toyota, was on dry tires. Lewis passed him second last curve and then the last corner and then came fifth and then won the championship by 1 point.
I love it, and I love you picked that one because, and I'm actually going to take this clip because I remember that part, and from the videos you see the rerun of it, and you see Felipe Massa's family in the Ferrari garage, like they're like,
Celebrating.
"Yay, we've done it!" And then like you're saying, it's the last minute, last second, really.
Mm.
They are told, "No, guys, it's actually Lewis," and then like there's the engineers who like start banging things on the wall because they're like, "What do you mean? Like, how did that happen?"
And then
I'm
they
sure.
moved to the McLaren garage
Yes,
and
where
Nicole
everyone
was there.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
exactly. I
mad.
love. I also, I really okay. That's a good moment. That's a really
Ah,
nice moment
definitely.
actually
I
in
think
Formula One.
that's one of the
Yeah,
most more memorable moments of my F1
yeah.
watching that I can recall. Definitely.
I love that. I love that.
Yes.
Okay, well, we
Mm.
agree. So now we know, first of all, a little bit more about you. We can get right into the rest of the episode because we got a lot to discuss. And I think we're going to
Uh-huh.
start with just a general Formula One discussion before we go into the race.
Okay.
So let's start with the current state of Formula One. And I'm talking about this season, maybe let's say the last two or so seasons.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, everyone's like, it's boring. Red Bull's really dominant, or rather, Max is really dominant.
Hmm.
If it wasn't for, last week with this car, I mean, I was betting it's going to win 24 out of 24 this year.
I remember I
Um,
saw that video where he said
so
that.
like, what do you think? Like, what's your opinion? Do you think it's unfair for everyone to be like on this? Like, we've had dominant eras where people like Lewis were dominating, Vettel was dominating, Schumacher was dominating. Like, is it any different? Do people just not like it when it's just one person winning? Or is there something particular about this particular era?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that it's not the first time that we're seeing a dominant era in F1. Generally, I feel as though there's always a leading team, and then in some cases, the other teams are close behind. Then in some cases, they're far behind, as is the case with what we're seeing now. So, and what we've seen with Red Bull in the last two seasons, from the beginning of this, what do they call it? The floor era. What do they?
And the one that is fixed, Mercedes fixed him. They fixed
Yes,
us. Like the
completely.
floor, the floor is not for us. Yeah.
Exactly. So Red Bull have obviously done the best job to be dominating this era. What I think is unique about what's happening now is that what we've seen in the past is even though we had a dominant team, say your Mercedes from 2014 to say 2020, because for me, 2021, I feel as though Red Bull had a quicker car than Mercedes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So from 2014 to 2016, Mercedes had the driver lineup of Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton, and they were dominating, winning most races and everything. But the fundamental difference between those 3 years, for argument's sake, and the last 3 years that we've seen now, including this season, is that
Yeah.
at least Rosberg and Lewis were racing each other.
In equal machinery, you have to say in equal
Yes,
machinery.
in equal machinery. So when that was happening, yes, it wasn't nice to see that the other teams were not anywhere near them, but at least we saw a race. And as a
Yeah.
result, the 2014 and 2016 World Championships were concluded at the last race, which
True.
means
True.
people were still interested in the outcome of the F1 season to Abu Dhabi, you
And
see.
you know, it was so deep that time that I think I
Hmm.
said this in one of the other podcasts I've had, that even my
Hmm.
mom, who doesn't watch Formula One, we were always on our, like, on the edge of our seats, that she was like, why are you guys so stressed on a Sunday? You're always so stressed. And we're like, no, because Hamilton and Rosberg. And she could never get Rosberg's name. And she always used to call him. She'd be like, hey, how's your Rosberg guy? His name is Rosberg. And I promise you, if I call my mom today and I say, tell me about Rosebud, she'll be like, oh, I see that guy that gave Hamilton a problem just those years. So, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yes, exactly. So, what now? I mean, now personally, even though I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan,
Mhm.
I actually pulled out receipts when it was announced that he'll be joining Ferrari.
Mhm.
Because I was looking, because I'd called this like from long ago that one day Lewis will drive for Ferrari, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So people thought that's never going to happen. He's going to become a Mercedes legend and all of that, which was, by the sound of things, his plan A, but
Yeah.
Mercedes had other plans, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it was announced, I actually tripped into one of the messages
Yeah.
where I was saying in 2019 that even though my guy is winning, F1 is not in its best format when there's only one guy winning because in 2019 and 2020, Lewis didn't really have any competition,
Yeah.
including from teammate
Yeah.
Valtteri Bottas,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Mm.
So the current affairs in F1, to come to
Mm.
an answer to your question,
Yeah.
is not exactly the best format of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw today Max, he hardly even had a camera shot of
Yeah.
any of the footage because he's just driving there on his own, and
Yeah.
who wants to watch that? So it's very disappointing that Checo is unable to
Yeah.
compete with Max,
And he's
you know?
unable, eh? He's very,
Ye- I
he's
mean,
very,
today again today, he was what, 18 seconds behind at the end of the Grand Prix?
and this is what
And
I
I
say.
remember
So,
you said
yeah.
20 seconds at least.
You see, I told you, I was almost there, right? I was almost
Yeah,
there.
you were.
And this is what I'm
Mm,
trying to say, that, like, I've said to
mm,
people, and they're like, oh, you're just hating on Checo. But for me, I accept that Red Bull made an amazing car, and that's just facts, guys. The Not just Adrian Newey. I mean, today the guys at Sky will also say, let's not forget the whole team behind him, right? He might have the concept or whatever, but there are many
Hmm.
engineers there. So their aerodynamic team, stellar, 100%. Those guys, amazing. They made a great car. But I
100%.
just feel like Checo could have given us something. He could have been Red Bull. He could have been, sorry, Rosberg. He could have been, in equal machinery. Like, he could have given us something because I feel like if someone like Sainz or Hamilton or Alonso was in that car, that same Red Bull, you cannot tell me that Max would be winning by those margins. I'm not saying Max wouldn't be winning because Max is also good, but I just feel like Checo, like, like give us something. Like, yeah.
In all true honesty, ne?
Mm.
I have never rated Checo as a super driver.
Yeah, I can get that. I don't think he's yeah. I don't think he's super.
You
I think
know?
he's an okay driver. He's like, people like Pierre
Yes.
Gasly. Okay, no, Gasly is worse. But like people
No, same
like
level. You're right. Same
you know what I
level.
mean? Yeah,
I
like
agree with you.
you're right.
You
Like
know,
you okay.
I mean, he had a good 2020 season, which then earned
Mm,
him the Red Bull drive, and Red
yeah,
Bull were like short on drivers at the time,
yeah.
right?
Mm,
So he was just at the right place at the right time. But
yeah,
in
yeah.
all true honesty, you can look from his career dating back to 2013 when he joined
Mm,
McLaren, replacing
mm,
Lewis.
mm,
Uh, he got his first race win in 2020 for Racing Point, who were a team
mm,
that was struggling.
yeah.
And he also helped them financially because he's got that Mexicano money behind him,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Otherwise, in all true honesty, I felt as though in the balance of performance, Esteban Ocon was doing better than him at Racing Point.
Yes, those days he really was. And Ocon is a sad one because
Yes.
I feel like he just hasn't had the Ocon is not a rich kid, and
Yes, I was gonna
that's his
say,
only issue. He's not a rich kid, and that's
yeah,
the
it
only
doesn't come with the
reason.
koala. Mm-mm.
Exactly. It's the only reason why he hasn't managed to get some of these, kind of strategic moves because I feel like he deserves. I mean, Alpine is in actual hell right now. And I feel like Ocon is
They're the worst.
trying. Yeah, he's trying. Like, you have someone like Pierre, and I'm like, Pierre, what are you doing, bruh? Like, and
Dude,
Pierre's out here talking about, I want to go back to Red Bull. Like, that is done. Like, with what you're doing,
never
that is
gonna
over,
happen.
right? So you're right. The money does talk in Formula One,
Yeah,
actually.
big
And
time. Do you know Ocon won the F3 championship in 2014?
no, I did
So,
not know this.
and Max was racing in that series.
You see what I mean? You see what I
You
mean?
know?
Ocon shame is just a
Yeah.
poor boy. I mean, now he's got money, but yeah. Okay. Anyway, anyway,
Hmm.
still on that. Let's talk about the gift that keeps on giving. Mercedes, AMG Petronas Formula One team. I have to say the whole name because they break my heart. Like, I've got so many feelings, but I want to hear your feelings. I think I've said my feelings so many times. So, like, how are you feeling about that, like, establishment, like, just that from Toto, from Lewis and Lewis leaving, from George, just like everything.
Again, let's take a trip down memory lane.
Hmm.
So Mercedes came back into Formula One in 2010
Hmm.
as a manufacturer.
Yeah.
So before they were an engine supplier to McLaren, right?
Hmm.
Otherwise, they were in F1 as a team in the 1950s before
Yeah. Yeah.
2010.
Yep.
They bought Braun GP,
Hmm.
which belonged to Ross Brawn, the former technical director of Ferrari, and obviously team principal at Brawn.
Yeah.
Then Mercedes signed Nico Rosberg and
Schumacher.
Michael Schumacher, yes,
Hmm.
as their driver pairing
Yeah.
and built the team, right? So
Hmm.
Ross Brawn was at the helm at the time, and then
Hmm.
they developed the car. They recruited Nicky Lauda as an advisor. They signed Lewis Hamilton, and they were on an upward trajectory.
Hmm.
Then in 2013 came Toto Wolff, who is Susie Wolff's husband. At the time, we
And
knew
the love,
Susie. We
let's just
didn't know.
say, as the love of my life as well, we must just put a pin on that. Total Wolf, the love of my life. I don't care, he's not doing well, but Yeah, we
Well,
can continue.
you're probably not gonna like what I'm about to say then.
It's okay. We can
So
critique him. I still love him. I critique him all the time. I still love him.
fair enough. I like that objectivity.
Mm, yeah.
So came Toto Wolff with Paddy Lowe as his running mate because they seemed to come as a pair. And after 1 year, there seemed to be a power struggle between Ross Brawn and them on who was in charge. Ross Brawn decided to step aside from the team because he didn't want to get involved in any conflicts. Then Paddy and Toto continued taking over the reins and more responsibility. At that point, Toto Wolff was a 10% shareholder of Williams, I think, 30% shareholder of Williams F1 whilst being the co-team principal at Mercedes. And Mercedes took an exception to say it's a bit of a conflict for you to have shares in a team within the series. So we suggest that you sell those shares. And that's what he used as leverage to acquire the 33.3% share that he owns
Yeah,
within the Mercedes F1 team. So one thing about Toto, he is a cunning businessman, you know?
for sure.
So he's managed to surmount a lot of power in a short space of time from that time. And the timing of his arrival was basically on the dawn of the Mercedes dominant era in the hybrid era. And this has positioned him to being the most successful team principal, winning 8 constructors in a row, which is unprecedented in F1. He had the cool demeanor, calm character. Even in conflict, you felt as though Toto had a lock on it, you know, like when your Rosberg and Lewis would collide in Spain and that kind of thing. And he had a zero tolerance kind of approach to everything. Then Chiki Chiki, fast forward 2022, we
Hey,
see
GGG, for sure.
he's on the back foot now. And you know what they say, the true test of a man's character is when his back is against the wall. And the
Indeed.
Toto we got to know from 2013 to 2021 is not the Toto of today.
That guy's gone, eh? Like he's really gone. Like I was even watching
Exactly.
his
Gone
face in
guy.
this
Yeah.
today's race, even when the race was starting, before the race started, they put the camera on him and you could see
Yes,
the
as
anxiety
always.
in his face, like the actual
Mhm.
anxiety of, oh my God, I don't know what's gonna happen because he doesn't know what's going to happen. And I think that's maybe a
Exactly.
pace that he doesn't know how to deal with, not knowing. Because I think,
Yes.
like you're saying, still a businessman. I think he's such a planner, right? Like, you want to have your ducks in a row. You want to know this equation works out to this. If I do this, this is the result. And I think what they've had now has been, so they don't know what's happening. They think this is what's happening, and then it doesn't happen. Like the simulator says something, and they even he joked about, I think maybe we need a new simulator because our simulator is broken because what it's telling us and what's happening is just not the same at any time. And I think that really, it's shaking him up because he's like, how can I go into a race not knowing like what's going to happen every race?
So, yeah, for me, the biggest thing, if you look at Christian Horner between 2014 and 2021, he was annoying. He was, you
Yeah,
know, always there trying to upset the cart,
was the weasel.
always trying to antagonize, yes, antagonize Toto and all of that. But while he was doing that, you could see Red Bull 1 or 2
Yeah,
race
yeah,
wins. You know, even when they were behind Ferrari in 2017, 18, you always felt like the team that's on an upward
mm,
trajectory, if Ferrari fumbles
yeah,
the bag, as they
yeah,
often
mm,
do or have in the
yeah,
past, then Red Bull, because Red Bull, they were doing the best
yeah,
pit stops the whole
yeah,
time, the quickest pit stops, trying different strategies, you know. In a 2 stop strategy race, they'd try 3 stops or 1 stops, just thinking out of the box and showing that hunger of a team that is the
yeah,
hunter. So you always felt as though if it was not going to be Ferrari, it's definitely going to be Red Bull. And and there you go with their meticulous
Mm,
planning and their
mm,
tenacity, with their young
yeah.
driver and their ruthlessness in
That's the
their
thing.
approach of
That's
how
the
they run the team.
thing. That's the thing. I agree. Red Bull really has
Yeah.
um I suppose the hunger, like you said, the hunger was important for them. Christian
Yes.
Horner is a
Yes.
weasel, but he's a really good. No, really, he is. But that's his
He's a
style,
really
right?
good
A
weasel.
really good weasel, really
Yes.
good team principal in that regard. Really ruthless. His approach, yes, is they are, you come in, you're either the best or you're out, right? And I think that's probably their approach even with their
Yes.
employees. Like, I wouldn't want to work there, but it
Exactly.
works. And I feel like Mercedes approach is more, of a yes, precision and
Camaraderie.
exactly, let's be,
Yes.
which also worked for
Mm.
them. It's also a strategy that
Hmm.
worked for them. But I think what they're now struggling to do, as they are now the ones hunting, the ones that are hungry, is that they kind of needs to change that approach. Like, you can't come from the back with that same, oh, peace and love, we're all together here, guys, and we believe in you, it's going to work. Yes, you can stay. You don't have to be horrible. You can stay in, like, we believe in you, but then unfortunately these are the targets. We don't meet them, you're out. Or, their consequences. And they might learn a thing or two from Christian Horner. And I also like the point you said about how Horner was always in Toto's ear, always in the media saying something. I remember in 2021, there's a time when he literally made it his, like, sole purpose to attack Lewis. Anything that would happen, whether they were on to Lewis about, you can't wear this, or Lewis tried to kill Max on the British Grand Prix in 2020, 2021, was it? Yes. Or, Lewis did that.
Playing the man.
And for sure, it worked
Yes.
a little bit. It actually
Playing
worked.
the
I remember,
man.
yeah, there was a time when you could
Yes.
see Lewis was feeling a little bit like, oh my God, leave me alone, kind of
Mm.
thing, right? But they saw he plays every angle. And
Mm,
Toto needs
mm,
to think
mm,
about playing every angle. I think he needs to think about, almost learn from your competitor. Don't be him. I don't want him to be Christian Horner, but I don't
mm.
like Christian Horner, but he's good at what he does.
The thing is, Toto is an honest man.
Mm,
Are you with me?
mm,
He wears his heart on his sleeve.
mm,
So that villain character is
yeah.
not part of his mock-up. Are you with me? In the sense that now Toto is going on about his admiration for Max Verstappen.
Yeah, like, I was like, wait.
Did did you hear Horner when they were asked, would you sign Lewis? He's like, no, we had a chance to sign Lewis in 2012
Yeah.
and we declined it because we don't think he's the right fit for the team.
For
Excuse
me,
me?
though, that's a lie. Christian Horner's lying, but he's playing the game. Like, I really, he's playing the game. Yeah, he's playing the
Exactly.
game. And
Exactly.
2012 Lewis, actually, he was ruthless. Like, this peace and love Lewis that we
Yes.
have now, that's just comes with age, I suppose. You get older. We don't have
Hmm.
the energy for some of these things. But
Yeah,
Lewis,
Lewis was
it was
wilding.
wild.
2012.
I
Ah.
mean, this is the guy who made people pour champagne on his back. Like, Lewis was wild. I think, didn't they even ban removing your suit because of Lewis when you were on the podium? Like,
Yeah, because he was
yeah,
wearing the Black Lives Matter.
always. Like, he did all these things. This guy was mad. And I
Yes.
just think that Toto can't backtrack and start talking about, oh, I would really like Max. Oh, I mean, even for your driver, let's just talk about driver. Like, if we were trying to be like peace and love, how is George supposed to feel when he's basically being told that, you know what, you're okay, but we're trying to get this kid called Kimi Antonelli because we think he's the next Max Verstappen. And if we can get Max, we'll also get Max. Like, oh, what's, like, I actually don't get it. I was like, Toto,
Make it make sense.
don't be he's rattled by what's happening. I'm like, Toto, calm down, relax.
Yes.
And in
And it
these moments,
shows.
yeah, I miss Nicky Lauda in these moments, because I feel like he would have been like, okay, guys, let's not panic, let's have direction, let's do, these are the changes
Yes.
we need. And maybe Toto just needs a number two that is very Christian Horner, like a number two that has a different approach to leading, that can give him a balance, I think, because they need to change something at this point.
Facts.
Okay. Okay, we can go
Facts.
on. We can go on. We need to move on to the next thing.
Okay.
Um just shortly, because we sort of already spoke about this, but how do you feel about, before you go to the Japanese Grand Prix, how do you feel about Lewis going to Ferrari? And I think you sort of touched on it, but just like 1 minute.
I think it's the best thing to happen to F1 right now,
Hmm.
uh, in the sense that Lewis is not just a F1 driver.
Mhm.
And this is what maybe some people have not realized yet. Lewis, I see him as a Mahatma Gandhi.
Oh, okay,
Yes, he's
okay.
gonna change the world, that guy, a
Mm-hmm.
Mother Teresa.
Okay.
He's that guy. Because if you look at Lewis, Lewis is the first driver of color to participate in Formula One.
Preach.
He is the most successful
Mm-hmm.
driver as the first one.
Yeah.
So what he's right there, he's already breaking the glass ceiling
Mm-hmm.
for young aspiring black drivers who will see him as a role model and know that it is possible, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what background you come from.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you are committed and dedicated to the dream,
Mm-hmm.
you can make it.
Yeah.
That's what he's about. So he's come in and basically dominated this white dominated affluent sport for an elite bunch where
Yeah.
he never belonged.
Mm-hmm.
And then now he started becoming vocal. Lewis only became vocal after winning his sixth title about issues that affect humanity,
Mm-hmm.
marginalization,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's based on gender or race
Mm-hmm.
or background or religion or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he became very vocal. And this is where I think the pushback from the system
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
because Lewis was a darling
Mm-hmm.
until he
Yes.
started actually voicing his
Yes.
true views
Yes.
of what he
Yes.
sees in the
Yes.
world
Yes.
and as an extension in Formula One as a whole.
Yeah.
And then he exposed the frailties within the sport
Yeah.
because you look at football, for instance, and if you watch the Premier League, all the 22 players on the field,
Mm-hmm.
including the coaching staff on the sidelines,
Mm-hmm.
they take the knee.
Yeah.
They all come from different countries, those people,
Yeah.
different backgrounds and everything. But the 20 F1 drivers
Mm-hmm.
could not be
Yeah.
united in taking the knee.
Yeah.
Just 20
Yeah.
drivers. And
Very
that
unique.
was a true reflection
Mm-hmm.
of where F1 is in
Yeah.
terms of transformation.
Yeah. No,
I
I think
mean,
he
how
really
many
did. He really did. Sorry, just to cut you off. Like I think, especially the way you said that he was a darling, and then until he wasn't, and it's a true reflection of everything I think we all go through as Black people, as women, as well. That he sort of filled the quota for. Oh, look, we have a Black person in Formula One. We're diverse. And when the next one comes, it's okay, and it looked nice. And then the moment the one Black person said, well, actually, yes, you have me here, but this is what's going on in the world, and you guys are silent. This is what's going on within the teams, you guys are silent. How many people of color do you have in your teams? How many women do you have in your teams? Like, it's just for, and I'm not talking about, I don't know, the people who are giving us food. I'm talking about the actual big roles and what are your plans to recruit more people, to give them more chances. If you guys are recruiting from, I don't know, prestigious universities or institutions or whatever, what are the chances of people of color or women or people from marginalized groups are going to get into the system, and you guys are basically keeping your own? The moment he said that, they were like, this, when they like when they look at you and they're like, now you're getting too comfortable. We did the diversity workshop. We
aha,
did the diversity workshop. We got somebody to come and talk about it. That should be enough for you. And he was like, no, actually, that's not. And you're right. He brave of him as well. I used to love. We talked about it. How he would go on the podium wearing those, arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor. With the t-shirts, George Floyd was murdered, and I was like, for me, 2020, I was like, what a guy. Made the team go, black, changed the livery of the car, everything.
Mercedes.
And yeah,
Yes.
and I love Toto. I love Toto for allowing that. I love that they,
Yes,
they went
yes.
with that, and
Credits,
they really have changed. It's
credits.
also, I feel like, what's pushed and started even things like F1 Academy for the ladies, and that push that's there in Formula One now for the teams to back a driver in Formula One Academy. And okay, I'm with you. See, what I want to say to the people who always say that I am Delulu for Lulu, here is somebody who is in support with me, who believes that Lewis is bigger than Formula One, that is bigger than just a driver, that he
Much,
is he is
much.
a trailblazer, a person who's going to change the world. But the question was his move to Ferrari before we get lost.
Yes, yes, of course.
Yes.
And that's what I was going to
Yeah.
with my point,
Mm.
but I just wanted to bring
Yeah.
context. So, with the move to Ferrari, Italians are known to be the most conservative nation in the world. Uh, if I'm being blunt, most racist.
Mm-hmm.
So, picturing a black driver in Tifosi winning at Monza,
Mm-hmm.
say winning the title.
Mm.
Picture it happening, you know, 2025 September or 2026, because uh, they're the last people who would be embracing a
This
Lewis.
is true.
As a result, their fans right now, today as we
Mm-hmm.
speak, they are divided in saying that what because they've developed so much unwarranted hate towards Lewis. They've said so many nasty things about him in the
Mm-hmm.
past, and now he's joined Ferrari. So already they find themselves in a predicament because they're like, oh shucks, now
Yeah.
what? Some say I'll only support Charles
Mm-hmm.
because they have that preconceived notion
Yes.
that I'm never going to support Lewis. But now you can see Charles has not reached his peak as yet. Yes, Lewis is struggling this year, but we know the pedigree of Lewis and the new challenge. And for me, I feel as though, based on last season's results for that matter, Lewis finished third in the
Yeah.
Drivers'
Yeah.
Championship, driving in arguably the fourth or fifth
Mm-hmm.
car, which means he outperformed every other driver except Max Verstappen because he was even close to
Yeah.
Checo. If it wasn't for the quota
Vacation,
disqualification
exactly. Yeah.
result, it's possible that he would have finished second. So, so Lewis going to Ferrari is one going to change the perception of many
Yeah.
because he's definitely going to
Yeah.
succeed at
Yeah.
Ferrari.
100%.
Don't even doubt that.
100%.
He's going to succeed. I feel like he's going to win even more than one championship there,
I love it.
right?
Let's just
And,
all manifest this. Let's just all together
yeah,
manifest this.
yeah. No, Lewis, guys, yo, I've been following Lewis a long time, and I've never seen someone with so much mental strength.
Yeah.
You see, he's on the back foot now, but already out qualified George yesterday.
Yeah.
No one saw that coming,
Yeah.
you know? He's done that so many times. The 2021 World Championship, Red Bull were
Yes.
dominating. They went to the summer break. Lewis came,
Yeah.
beast mode.
Yeah.
And if you look at Max's best lap that never happened
Yeah.
at Saudi Arabia
Yeah.
for pole position,
Yeah.
it shows you that by the third last race, Red Bull still had the car.
Yeah.
But Lewis was able to win that Grand Prix,
This is true.
win in Brazil, following the 25 place grid penalty
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
structural defect that had nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
He still went on to win that race. You with me?
And they were trying
Max
in
still,
that year. They were trying by all means to make
exactly.
sure.
Yes. That they try and slow him down before Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi became the straw that broke the camel's
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
But if you look at the psychological recovery Lewis has demonstrated time and time again,
True.
2017 championship, Vettel was dominating.
Yeah.
After Monza, Lewis did that overtake
Yeah.
on him at that S curve. After
Yeah.
that,
It
it
was
was
gone.
curtain.
It was gone.
Yes.
And
Lewis
even with the
2000 and
2016 one, in as much as Rosberg won, I feel like that year
aha.
they had to kill his car a couple of times. They had to like,
No, of course.
yeah,
I
to
mean, if
make
you
it
think
work.
about Kuala Lumpur,
Mm,
I mean, Lewis even said, I want to find that interview. He
yeah.
was like, there are 8 cars that are supplied by Mercedes engines here.
Yeah.
And every time it's mine that
Yeah.
breaks.
Yeah.
The other 7 are all
Are
fine.
all fine. And I love, I just
I
thought of an
want,
interview he did. It
hmm,
was around that time, and someone said,
hmm,
no, it was a little bit before then. Actually, I think he must have still been. He was at Mercedes, so it was around that time. I forgot what the issue was
hmm.
about, but then they asked him also, why do you think that happened? And his response was, I don't know. I guess it's because I'm black. And then literally the commentator was, I mean, need to find this interview, and the commentator, the interviewer was like. Then he's like, haha, laugh out loud, I'm joking. Anyway, but he
I'm
meant it.
just
He
joking.
meant it though, right?
Yes,
Yeah, he
yes.
did. But no,
You know
I
what they
love your
say?
point.
Yes, using humor to convey
Yes,
underlying
yes,
message.
yes.
Satire.
But I do love your point, and
So
I hope that when he does go to Ferrari, that it's. I hope to actually maybe make it to Monza next year. Let's see how it happens. And
let's plan it.
I want
Let's
to
be
see,
intentional.
right, and I want to see, like,
Yeah.
I want to see first of all the sea of black people that are going to be in Monza wearing red, because the girlies are ready. We are ready. We are prepared. We are going to be showing up Lewis Hamilton Fashion Week in red all year long. And
Fede.
yeah, I just want to see, like,
Yeah.
that. I suppose if you were to take, I don't know, the guys you were speaking about in the beginning from the 90s or whatever, and tell them that, you know what, in 2025, there's going to be a black guy driving for Ferrari. There's going to be Monza is going to be filled not with Italian people, but with, other people of color from different places, right? Here to support this one guy, they wouldn't believe it. So actually, I like that point of view.
So there you have
Mm,
it.
I like that point
In
of view.
summary, you've just said it.
Yeah.
So Lewis's move to Ferrari, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one going to break another racial barrier
Mm-hmm.
because he will unite Italians
Mm-hmm.
to, at least review their views on black people
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because now they haven't won a constructors championship since 2007,
Gimme.
2008,
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gimme. Yeah.
A- exactly. And Massa.
Mm.
And they haven't won a drivers championship since 207.
Mm.
So they are Italian fans who've never seen
Exactly.
a world champion driver at Ferrari.
True.
And when Lewis, and he will bring it,
Mm.
when Lewis brings that, then automatically he has made such a huge impact.
Mm.
And not only that, now let's move from how he's changing the world and go to his personal accolades.
Yeah.
Lewis, his next race win
Mm.
will break two records.
Okay.
One, it's going to be his 104th race win.
Yeah.
That's more than any driver.
Yeah.
He's going to be the first driver to race in 300 plus Grand Prix and
Mm.
win a Grand
Grand
Prix.
Prix. Yeah.
No driver's ever done that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when he wins the championship with Ferrari,
Mm-hmm.
he will become the only the second driver since Fangio in the 1950s
Mm-hmm.
to win a championship with three or more teams.
Mm.
Yeah, Fangio won with four, of course,
Yeah.
Alfa Romeo, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Maserati.
Mm-hmm.
So Lewis will have won with McLaren, Mercedes, and
And
Ferrari,
Ferrari.
all
Yeah.
big names.
Yeah. Yeah.
He will also be the first driver since Fangio to win a championship after the age of 40.
And people were like, "Oh, the
You
boy
with
is
me?
washed or whatever." They must shut up.
No, there's no
There's
such.
no such.
People will always bring him down. I mean, before he started winning with
Yeah.
Mercedes, in fact, before he even moved to Mercedes,
Mm-hmm.
can you remember the things that were being said about
Yes.
Lewis
Yes.
then?
Yes. And people were like,
He's not
"See."
focused. He's always in America with this
Mm.
girlfriend of his, the
Yeah.
pussycat doll.
Mm-hmm.
He's all about the fashion and the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So, etc., etc. And he's not lived up to the hype because one championship is not enough
Yeah.
in proportion with his
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he signed for Mercedes, who finished fifth in the constructors in 2012.
Mm.
Oh no, is he daft?
Yeah.
He wears his heart on his sleeve. Oh, this is the worst move ever.
And then
Then boom.
he did the things, and yeah, they said, you know what, we could talk, like, we could talk. We need a whole podcast for Lewis because I could do it, like I said. But now we will move to the Japanese Grand Prix, and I mean, there's not
Fede.
much to say, honestly. I mean, no, really, there's not much to say. I mean, we can talk about qualifying, but I feel like with quali, it is what it is. Like, I mean, Max, of course, was going to take P1. Like, it was obvious. What I was impressed by
Mhm.
was just that Checo's speed was, on par with Max in terms, at least one lap. One lap speed for qualifying was good. We've already spoken about how Mercedes is, yeah, it is what it is. And what I just want to say that it did look like Ferrari had a little bit of trouble in quali. But then I
Yeah.
think when
Mm.
we got to the race today, which is what I actually want to talk about, is they showed us something. They seem to have come back. They seem to have figured out whatever it is was happening. Maybe they just didn't have one lap pace. Maybe they had better race pace with their setup, which was great. But before we go into that, tell me, who did you think was going to take the top five positions before the race happened?
Well, on our we've got a radio show called Kaya Lami on Opulence Radio,
So why didn't you mention this in the
where
beginning when I was asking you to tell the people about the stuff that you do? You see this guy, he keeps. I'm going to, after this episode, I'm going to ask him to write down everything and then I'll post it because he keeps the information from the people. But okay, yes, on the live that you guys do.
yes, so it's on Opulence Radio,
Mm-hmm.
www.opulence.africa. It's
Mm-hmm.
called Kaya Lami, if you know, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So, but spelled in Zulu or
Kaya
Xhosa,
Lami. Okay.
ne?
Mm-hmm.
Kaya Lami, the
Mm-hmm.
OG basically.
Yeah.
So at the end of the show, which as it's on Tuesday online from 6 to 9,
Okay.
Tuesday evenings, 6 to 9 Central African Time,
Mm-hmm.
PM. So I said we do race predictions there. So I said my race prediction was obviously Max to win,
Mm-hmm.
Checo second,
Mm-hmm.
and then I said Leclerc third.
Oh, you were almost there.
Right? That was my top three. But do you play Super Brew?
No, 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 I don't.
Really?
I used to. I
Okay.
just
We mu
I stopped. I used to.
Oh no, we must recruit you.
Yeah.
I've got a Super Brew pool called Motos Are Picks.
Okay.
So there we play for prizes. So
Okay.
we got a whole mystery box and everything. So on my Super Brew picks, without getting sidetracked and chowing more of our viewers' time,
Yeah.
I picked, yeah, Red Bull 1, 2 with Max leading.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went for George for third place, Lewis fourth, because of the Ferrari struggling, like you
Okay.
said.
Okay.
Then I went for a Ferrari 5, 6 and McLaren 7, 8 and Aston Martin 9 and 10. I see I got 17 points, but I've dropped 2 places there, 3 places there. I belong to a couple of pools. So that, wow. So these days the bar's high while the racing is going down,
Yeah.
the predicting is going up
Yeah.
because 17 points would have got you a yellow cap in the old days. So that was my prediction.
Mm,
It was obviously off,
yeah.
but what I think Ferrari really killed it with, yes, they did have race pace today,
Mm-hmm.
but the split strategy
Yes. Yes. Yes.
is what
Yes.
gave them the
Yes.
edge.
I agree.
And now, today,
Mm-hmm.
they've shown the signs that we saw from Red Bull in the 2010s, your
Exactly.
2015.
Exactly.
So they are now showing that they are when the chips fall down on Red Bull,
Mm-hmm.
because every era comes to an
Yes.
end.
Yes.
It's them who
Who
are
are going
first
to
in
be
line.
exactly, and they're hungry. The hunger
Uh,
you were talking about, and
Yes,
particularly with
their pit
Fred.
stops have improved.
They completely
Yes,
improved. Their strategy is not horrible anymore. With Fred, I feel like
yes.
Fred looks like, your nice uncle or grandpa, but that guy is strategizing in his head. He's like, because for me, how did he finesse Lewis? I just always, I just, that man is onto something. And I think I'm with you there. I think Ferrari really is the one to watch. I think that if they continue this way, they will definitely by the end of the season be, if not getting, I hope they get one or two wins, but Max right now is kind of inevitable. But if they continue this way
They
next
already
year,
had got one win.
yeah, I mean a little bit more. Well, without Max actually DNFing is my
Mm,
point. Like, as in
okay, no, I hear you.
where
I
it's
hear you.
like actually on pure pace. But okay, that was
Mm.
fine. I just want to ask for the race start. Who do you think was at fault between Albon and Danny Rick? Was it a racing incident? What are your thoughts?
Racing incident.
Yeah.
No one's at fault. It's not Danny. It's not Albon. The unfortunate thing is Danny is on fraud watch,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not good for him. They've been showing lots of images of Liam Lawson, so
Yes.
maybe that was his second last race. Rumor has it.
Well, I'm sure he can call Nick DeFries and get some tips. I think he shouldn't get into his head. And we've seen it with Nick DeFries. We've seen it with what's his name, Checo last year. that once that thing is
Mm.
in your head, you can't shake it. With Gasly and Albon when they were there, like
100%.
once you have that pressure,
Mm.
it's a lot. But anyway, we already spoke about Ferrari. Ferrari's strategy, I think, was really good.
100%. Which
Mercedes
means
strategy.
Lewis's move,
You know what? It
Lewis's
didn't
move
work
to
out.
Ferrari,
But
stroke of genius.
which means sorry.
Lewis's move to Ferrari
Mm,
is a stroke of genius.
it is no,
The timing of it.
of course,
Yeah,
100%, 100%. I mean,
yeah.
he
And
literally
in,
he
oh
saw
yes,
what we all didn't see.
exactly. And in what you were saying, how did Fasir finesse Lewis to joining Ferrari? Uh, Apparently, Lewis got a call from John Elkann, the
Ah,
CEO of the Exco Group,
mm,
who are the parent company that own a majority stake of Ferrari now.
that level, that
He
sounds
called
like
him
a big deal.
personally. Yes, last year in January already.
Oh,
And then he was like, come join us. Then Lewis was like, the good guy, loyal. No, let me stick with Mercedes, see what they do. They've been so good to me, etc.
mm,
And then he was going into his last year of his contract last
yeah,
year,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And then the negotiations got iffy. I mean, look how long it
yeah.
took for
It took
Lewis to
forever.
sign a contract, you know? And it was reported that he signed a 1 year contract with a 1 year
Mm,
option. So Lewis was like, okay, I hear you with your 1 year options. I'd like an exit
mm,
clause.
mm.
And he had to activate it by the 31st of January this year.
Ah,
Then Alcan and Vassir, who was working closely with Lewis in F3 as well, so they have history. We're like, are you sure about this? Then he was like, you know what? These
he
guys,
said
they won't give me the
he got into the
ambassadorship. They won't. Yeah.
he got into the simulator and he
So
saw that
it's not,
it's the same. It's the same. This is the same car, and nothing's changing.
and the thing is, they don't listen to
Mm,
him. The
mm,
feedback from the driver, guys, let's try this. Now it's all coming out that Lewis has been saying the direction we're going as a team, I don't think is the right
mm.
one. And based on performance, he's obviously
He's really
right.
right. Yeah.
And then there's the contractual, the boardroom issues,
Mm,
the ambassadorship they wouldn't give
yeah.
him, the long-term contract he wanted, and all these things. I mean, yes, Mercedes had the best car, provided Lewis with the best possible opportunity to win in the years that he was winning. But in 2017 and 2018,
Mm,
Lewis won those
yes.
championships. If they
100%.
didn't have Lewis and they had two Bottases,
Oh,
then
sure.
they wouldn't have won those
And I
championships.
love Bottas,
So
you
it was
know.
down to the driver. Yeah, we all love Bottas, but he's just not a super driver either,
He's a
you
Perez.
know?
He's an actual Perez. But okay, back to the race. Um,
Yes,
on the strategy, I was just asking you, do you think that it didn't work in the end, but had it worked, like because when I was watching Bernie, and I love Bernie, by the way, I love her commentary. She was like, it could be a stroke of genius, a master stroke, if this works for them, right? That one stop, which worked for Leclerc actually, though it was on the mediums. um
yes.
is it that the tire choice was wrong? Is it that our car is just the car? Or what? Because you
Me,
can't blame
chap.
any of the drivers. Both of them didn't succeed really in it today. So
Yeah.
mm,
Me, chap. I don't see how a hard tire strategy for a hunter is the right one. You see Alonso's strategy.
mm,
Alonso started on soft tires after the red flag.
yeah,
That's the strategy. Look where he finished. Look where Lance
mm,
Stroll finished.
mm,
I mean, Alonso beat both the Mercedes.
yeah.
Arguably, Mercedes is still ahead
Of
of Aston
Aston,
Martin,
you're right. You're right.
but it's his strategy.
Mm,
And Mercedes, in the end, they pitted for a second time
yeah.
to have a third stint,
Mm,
and they both put on used mediums,
mm,
which means that the reality is the strategy failed.
yeah. Yeah.
Their plan was to stop once
Mm,
because obviously they started the race on medium tires,
yeah.
but the red flag allowed them to change, which
Mm,
is when they changed the strategy. But for me, it was the wrong strategy and they had to revise it. The fact that they had to revise it and it still didn't work,
Yeah.
then for me, because at least if those were new medium tires going onto the cars for that last stint,
Yeah.
then one, we know that that is premeditated.
Mm.
And two, it gives them a possible chance because if you see, Lewis was flying in the last stint.
Yeah,
He was over a second quicker than George.
I think whether they overestimated the pace that their car would have in the race once those hard tires come alive, because even when they did, right, it was painful to watch all those overtakes that happened, to them. Like, it was like anyone can pass. Like, even the overtake that Lando did on George was from nowhere, and like he literally lunged in, and I was like, he's too far away to do the overtake, and lo and behold, the overtake went, right. So you're right. You know what? It's fine. I don't want to talk about Mercedes. They break my
No,
heart.
Merc, no,
They break
are off the ball completely.
completely
Strategy,
off the
pace.
ball. Oh my.
No,
But this
I
this
give them
is
a
what I'm
0
saying.
out of
This is what
10.
I'm saying. Toto doesn't know how to
Hmm.
behave in this scenario. He has never been in this
Yes,
scenario. He doesn't know how to be a
yes.
number 3, 4, 5 team, and even for Lewis after the race on the radio, Bono said to him, and I hope Bono goes to Ferrari, by the way, but we'll see. But Bono
I
said to
think he
him,
will.
I really hope he does. He said to
No, I think he will,
Lewis,
definitely.
something like, okay, that's P9 or whatever. Lewis didn't say anything back. He was just like, when he's like, guys, I can't believe this is my life with you, where I'm finishing gaining 2 points. And people are like, oh, George finished ahead of Lewis. I'm like, do you think Lewis cares about the fact that George got what, 4 points? Is it 6 points?
Seventh.
Like
Yeah,
that.
he's
Like, do you
seventh.
think he cares about 7 and 9? Like, what is that for a
And
champion?
that's fact.
Yeah, like, why would
You
he
know
care?
what?
Yeah,
The producer at SABC,
yeah.
he was saying to me, he's a Lando Norris fan,
Okay.
George Russell fan,
Mm-hmm.
anti-Lewis fan.
Okay.
He says to me, yeah, but George is bringing in the points,
Yeah.
and I'm like, bruv, we're in it to win it.
Yeah.
Well, the points are nice,
Who cares?
but we're in it to win it.
Yeah.
So he's saying that Lewis is always experimenting, doing different experiments, and these experiments are failing. I'm
Yeah.
like, one day he'll do an experiment and will succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you tell me, you've got two drivers. Do you want the driver who's not content with finishing 7, 8, 9?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want the driver who's going to play it safe and is content with
Yeah.
finishing 7, 8, 9? You
100%.
tell me,
100%. And you
you
know what? I
know?
think it's a
Because
disservice to
let,
George himself, because I was thinking about this and I was like, George must think about his life as well. Because if he gets
yeah,
comfortable and okay with this P7 life, right, and Mercedes doesn't pull up their socks, this is it for him as well. Like, because next year the driver lineup is changing completely, right? We're going to get many little,
yeah.
like, different young kids that are coming in, and lots of switch ups. And I feel like for George, if he also doesn't in this year and next year think about his future, this might be it. He might just end up as the guy who got one Formula One win, who, unless Mercedes really turn around in 2026, I don't know. But other than that, if they get into 2026 and it's the same, he really needs to play a genius, switcheroo, because he will also be stuck in this P7, P5, and that'll be it for him for his life. And I think he's also capable. I don't really like him, but I also think he's capable of winning a couple more races, of getting a couple more podiums, being a driver. Not he's not a
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think he's also not a super driver, but I think he's a good
Yes.
driver. And I think that he,
No, he
yeah,
is.
with a
He's
good
definitely
team.
better than Checo.
You don't like Checo. Okay, just one more guy for today for the Japanese Grand Prix. Alonso. Is that man not a master of the game? I mean, how he
Bruv,
pulled that off
like,
with Piastri and George was amazing.
bruv, me with Alonso.
Yeah,
I am loving Alonso right now. You
yeah,
know why?
yeah.
Because of his performances. They can't drive the narrative of saying Lewis is washed
Exactly, exactly,
because he's 4 years older than Lewis.
exactly.
So what it shows is that it's not an age thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And Alonso has always said, give me the car, I'll do the goods.
And he will, and he will,
Exactly.
he will.
Now, I don't know if you saw, they asked Max, what do they think of Alonso possibly being his teammate next season?
Oh,
And he said, To him, it's a mystery how Red Bull would sign a 42-year-old driver. Then I was like, I smell fear here.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because these days, actually, Max
Yes.
has been polite these days. So when Max goes back to
Yep.
being a bit feisty, then you know, because when he's asked, Lewis, these days even complimenting, oh, definitely I can see why Ferrari would take a 7-time world champion. You're like, Max, really? So for him to say that, that means he's like,
He's scared. He's
I don't want
scared.
to deal with that.
Obviously.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Me, that's
yeah,
the only way I see it.
yeah.
But he's obviously PR trained, so he's putting it in a way where he's deflecting. A
Yes,
Kansas City shuffle.
yes, yes,
You
yes, yes,
point to
yes,
the left, but you
yes,
go right.
yes,
That's
yes,
all.
yes. That would be
Otherwise, that is
epic.
fear there.
Imagine
Yes.
Max and Alonso, and then what? George and Sainz. That would be like, because I
Yeah.
don't think Kimi can they leave that child alone and just let him enjoy F2 for a little bit. Like, I don't know why they
He's
put
not even
so
he's
much
not
pressure.
even dominating.
Exactly. Like,
He's
can
not
they
even
let him adjust?
dominating
He might.
F2.
What if he ends up like
Even
a Logan
Oliver
Sargent?
Behrman.
What if he ends up like a Logan Sargent who was winning in Ish, poor
Mm.
Logan. Yo, Logan. I think he was just it's
I
that
think if he was at Racing Bull,
yeah.
today would have been his last race.
Yeah, it was finished because
Yeah.
that part where he literally crashed himself
Mm.
again today, right? I was like, okay, Logan, you
Yes.
are actually at the end. You are P17 right now.
Mm.
Don't just finish. Just
Mputu.
shame. Anyway, now the last unprovoked. Who was your driver of the day? I mean, I.
Driver of the day. My driver of the day is Charles Leclerc. I'm happy with
Mm-hmm,
the guy who won. Uh,
mm-hmm,
he drove an amazing race, making the one-stop strategy work that no
yeah,
one else could, which is also a reflection of how far Ferrari have come in addressing
mm,
their high tire degradation issues that they've had in the last couple of seasons. So
amazing.
definitely, I'm happy with him.
Sure,
No
okay.
reservations there.
And lastly, what are you looking forward to going into the Chinese Grand Prix?
Well, we haven't been to China since 2019.
Mm-hmm,
So what it means is this spec of cars have not driven in China, which I think makes it a little bit more interesting than any other venue that we have seen races at in this era. So I'm looking forward to seeing, because as much as Max won the race, probably he wasn't pushing as hard as he should or could, but the
yeah,
gap between Red Bull and Ferrari
yeah,
was not that big in the end.
yeah.
And you must remember that Science didn't have a smooth ride. He had to overtake people and all of that.
Mm,
So maybe if Ferrari can qualify, say, put one of the cars on the front row and then another one in the second row, then we could
mm-hmm.
possibly see a fight, a showdown between Ferrari and Red Bull for the race win in China.
That would be epic, I think. Like, I think same with you. I'm just sort of looking forward to see how it'll all go down. It's going to be Zhou's
Mm.
home race, though I think that
Yes,
team must
that
just
too.
be cancelled. But anyway, anyway, okay. The
They're gonna
upcoming
be
race
Audi in two
is
years,
on
so at
Sun.
least there's
Yeah, no,
something for them to look
they must.
forward to.
They must just.
Yeah.
Oh God. Anyway, okay. The upcoming race is on Sunday, the 21st of April in China.
Yes.
It'll be an
Yes.
action-packed weekend. It's also a
Yes.
sprint race weekend, so don't miss
Yes.
out on any of that action. And as you said, it'll be our first time to see these particular cars in this era drive in China on that
Hmm.
circuit. So I think it's going to be fun. I'm curious to see if Ferrari can keep up the good performance, can maybe bring something to Red Bull, and maybe also can Checo, get some confidence and bring the fight to Max. I don't know. In terms of Mercedes, will their troubles continue? Probably. And will McLaren bring some upgrades maybe to also potentially fight Ferrari? We will find out. But This has been an amazing episode, and that is it for today, lovelies. I can't wait to catch up with you again after the Chinese Grand Prix, where we'll discuss that race, and I will continue to give you little bits of Formula One knowledge. Please follow all my pages on socials. It's at Graining Traction F1. Like my posts, leave comments, let us engage. And also, do not forget to follow Lufefe's pages. It's at the F1 Vlogger and at motorzar.tv, and all of his channels that he mentioned that I will list underneath this episode. Lufefe, thank you so much for joining me today. It was an absolute pleasure. We had the best time. We had the best conversations. We need another episode. He'll probably come back again because the Formula
Yes.
One content is so much. There's so much to discuss. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I really had an amazing time as well. Okay, shout out one time.
Thank you. We are sending you all, wherever you are, good and positive vibes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.